Good morning, Nigeria. Welcome to Daybreak on Trust Television, reaching you from the nation's capital in Abuja. I am Ayuba Ilya. Super excited to have you join us on the show this morning, regardless of whatever is happening out there. Good morning, Stella.
Good morning, Ayuba, and good morning, Nigerians. Thank you for joining us this morning. Ayuba, how are you doing?
Well, I'm managing.
Do you have cash?
Well, I think we could count how many people have cash right now, because the Nigerian naira is now the dollar of our country,
before
because it's very scarce.
Weeks before now, when somebody says, do you have money? The person actually means, do you have money? As in,
money.
money. But right now, the person is asking, do you have cash
yes,
to spend?
And we thought that by now, the scarcity would have, been dealt with.
Right.
It would have gone away. But it looks like we have a lot of sabotage, from different angles. The central bank is saying, well, we have given out enough cash. The commercial banks, going by the videos we've seen on social media, seem to be hoarding the cash.
And we also have some
racketeering as well.
We have some that seem to be hoarding. We also have some commercial banks that are saying that they do not have the cash.
Yes. So at this point in time, it's hard to tell who is actually saying the truth and who is not. So. And
one thing that a lot of people are wondering is the bank extended it with by 10 days. And it doesn't seem as if anything has changed. And very soon, the 10 days will elapse. So what will happen? And
there's a whole new dimension to it. It is taking a political dimension now.
Of course.
We've seen the court giving order to the central bank not to extend the deadline. Some states have gone to court, 3 states, Zamfara, Kaduna, and...
Kaduna, Zamfara.
Which one is the other? Kogi State.
And Kogi State.
Kogi State have all gone to court. Asking the court to ask INEC to extend the deadline.
And then we also have 14 out of the 18 political parties saying that they will not take part in the election if there's an extension.
Exactly. So
there's all of that.
It looks like the opposition is no longer the opposition on this matter. And then the political party, which is the ruling party, is now the opposition on this matter.
On this matter.
And a lot of
but you know why the issue of extension or no extension is ongoing. I've seen a lot of Nigerians saying, look, that's not our problem. Just make this money available. Even if the extension, even if you say you're ending it today, just make this money available. That's what a lot of Nigerians are saying.
Exactly. At the end of the day, Nigerians just want the money.
They just want to have the money.
I mean, you shouldn't have to struggle to get your own money.
Because the truth of the matter is that right now, you can't even find the old Naira notes around.
Yes,
those ones are scarce as well.
Yes, so from what I understand, the central bank has ordered that this dispensing of the old cash should stop. So you won't find the old Naira notes anywhere. Only the new Naira notes, and that's it. At the end of the day, we just want the cash. No matter how it comes, whichever way.
No matter how.
Yes, let's have it in supply. People should not have to struggle to get the very money that they work hard to get.
Yes.
And
right now, people are asking for as little as 5,000, even though the CBN said you could withdraw for individuals 500,000 minimum. That's what they said.
Well, let's see. The 10 days extended is almost coming to an end. So let's see what's the next move that.
I think that's ending on Thursday thereabout.
Yes. Yeah. So in about 3 days' time or so. Yeah. All right, let's take a look at the headlines for today now. 3 APC governors sue for FG over Naira scarcity.
Court strikes out 2.9 billion Naira fraud suit against Okorocha. Others.
Nigerian footballer slums dies in Spain.
Now let's take a look at the details. 3 governors of the ruling All Progressives Congress The issue of Naira redesign has generated tension in the country owing to the scarcity of the new notes. Governors Nasir El-Rufai of Kaduna State, Yaya Bello of Kogi State, and Bello Matawale of Zamfara dragged the federal government before the Supreme Court. The states are seeking a declaration that the demonetization policy of the Federation being currently carried out by the CBN under the directive of President Muhammadu Buhari is not in compliance with the extant provisions of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended. Central Bank of Nigeria Act 2007 and actual laws on the subject. They're also asking the court to make a declaration that a 3-month notice given by the federal government and the CBN under the directive of the president of the country, that the expiration of which will render the old notes inadmissible as legal tender is in gross violation of the provisions of Section 20, subsection 3 of the Central Bank of Nigeria Act 2007, which specifies that reasonable notice must be given before such a policy and that the limit cannot be outside that provided under Section 22(1) of the CBN Act.
All right, now, a federal high court in Abuja on Monday discharged a former governor of Imo State, Senator Rochas Okorocha, of 2.9 billion naira fraud charge preferred against him by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. Justice Inyang Eko, in a ruling, struck out the EFCC's suit for being in contravention of Section 105, sub 3 of the Administration of Criminal Justice Act, ACJA 2015, which gives the Honorable Attorney General of the Federation the power to recall a case. Justice Eko said that the directive of the AGF and the Minister of Justice, Abubakar Malami, SAN, in a letter dated September 12, 2022, to the anti-graft agency to forward the case file as well as the EFCC's comments on the issues for consideration and review was binding on the Commission. The judge further held that from the moment the AGF gave the directive to the EFCC, the Commission ceased to have the legal authority to prosecute or continue the prosecution of the case.
Now, on a sad note, former Jigawa United defender Hadi Adobalau has collapsed and died during a home match between his club, CD Madrievo FC, and SP Canabilas in Spain Division. The incident reportedly occurred on Sunday. The Castilla-Mancha Football Federation said in a statement that the Nigerian youngster slumped for no apparent reason in the 39th minute of the match. Medical personnel on ground at the stadium were said to have immediately come to his aid, but efforts to revive him proved abortive as he was later pronounced dead. Speaking with Daily Trust in Kafanchan, Kaduna State, the deceased eldest brother, Misbah Adubala, who spoke on behalf of the family, described the death as a loss not only to his family, but to Nigerians and the world of football.
All right, now to some of the packages that we have this morning. Youths in Makurdi are protesting the hike in fuel price in Benue State. And the youths in their hundreds who said that they have had enough took to the major streets of the state capital to register their grievances. Jimmy Azande reports.
This is not a regular day in Makurdi. The protesting youths, mostly Okada riders and bus drivers, have decided to send a message to the petroleum marketers and the government. In protest against what they describe as unwarranted pump price hike, the protesters locked up gas stations with the condition that no one buys or sells the product.
The fuel price, we don't like the way they are selling fuel in Nigeria so far. But we don't have right to go to other states. So we have started it in our own state.
It's too cost.
The fuel is too cost, 500, and you cannot buy it. Those big men now, Okadas, I'm an Okada guy, will stay on the queue. Those big men will come and buy fuel and go. You see? So now they say, we should not buy. That is the end of adding fuel that the youth should not work. We that we don't want to steal, we don't want to do other things. The word that we not, their hope is for us to not work.
It's too much.
So the thing is too much. Later now they will say the youth are lazy. That we can't work. See bus drivers. How much are we buying per liter? 500. In Benue State here, 450. You see, and if you take 1 liter to the police station, you cannot 500 naira fuel cannot even gauge that 1 liter.
They said though they are law-abiding citizens, they can no longer bear the pains of naira and fuel scarcity. In all the major streets in the state capital, they ensured that no one bought the product at the time of the protest.
They said they buy 450, 500 now. And they fuel man with me and the kind of man. They fuel man kind of person, only another 50 and I don't get out now make arrangement, say we go do protest. We're not going to fight. Now peace, now protest don't do. So make them here for us, make it increase, make it make it put fuel down so make people buy the fuel as the day before.
We don't have issue on this cash. We have this issue on cash. You cannot get cash even in the bank, even at the ATM. People have been going out, have been suffering everywhere. And now we've decided that okay, since we can manage on this bike now no movement again because there's no fuel. Even the 420 naira we will be managing to buy. Now they don't want to sell again. And we don't know their mind whether they want to increase more, and there's no money.
This stand of the protesters, some said, will worsen the hardship many are facing if the situation is not addressed as soon as possible.
All right, now from the fuel queues to another issue dominating discourse. The Naira note redesign policy has continued to adversely affect Nigerians as cash remains scarce among citizens. Abubakar Abdullah reports that residents of Nasarawa State are not left out of the hardship occasioned by the unavailability of cash for daily transaction. Let's take the report.
For about 3 weeks now, Nigerians have been going through difficulties in getting the nation's newly redesigned denominations of 1,000, 500 and 200 Naira notes. This has made it difficult to transact business using the denominations as their circulations remains minimal. Checks around commercial banks in Lafia Metropolis reveals that customers were found clustering around ATMs or at bank doors trying to withdraw cash. Trust TV gathered that some of these customers are only able to withdraw limited amounts as allowed by the various banks and not what the customers would have wanted to withdraw.
Getting cash this morning was talk of war. I had to be here as early as anything, and I could just have access to 5,000. The rest entering in was what they could offer. I couldn't stand at the ATM to struggle.
I withdrew a rate of amount of 10,000 naira, in which I'm in need of 20,000 naira, but the bank gave me 10,000 naira as their maximum amount of withdrawal per day. If I could get it, I would go. But what I know that there's no money in the POS. If you go to the POS, they charge you more. They charge you 10,000 naira at the rate of 12,000 naira, which I cannot be able to do that.
Trust TV also observed that CBN has deployed its staff to various banks, lessen the burden on banks, especially those who come to make deposits of not less than 10,000 naira. At different parts of the state, point-of-sales operators have run out of cash for their business.
Today and yesterday and day before yesterday, will make it difficult to make a transaction because of the challenge of new Naira note in Nigeria. In my place here, Abuja Street, which is Shendarot in Abuja Street, before you get to 100,000 Naira, is so difficult.
Nasidi admitted that due to the difficulty in sourcing the cash, they are left with no option than to increase charges on withdrawals. A bank staff who spoke to Trust TV on condition of anonymity said the excesses of POS operators cannot be checked by the commercial banks due to their locations and mode of operations. He maintained that only the CBN can check the excesses of POS as the supplier and regulator of banks.
Now, as Nigerians continue to feel the biting effects of the new note scarcity, a pro-Naira redesign group has held a solidarity walk in support of the policy. Noel Samson, who witnessed the walk, reports that the group is blaming politicians for the scarcity of the redesign note. Take a look.
Chaotic situations like these are all over the country, with people struggling to get money. Many have lost their savings as grain traders experience falling prices to the scarcity.
Kasance a wannan waje tun karfe 5 na asuba kuma har yanzu ni ban samu namba na ba balatana ma a ce layi na yazo.
I've been here since 5 a.m. but up to this moment I've not been issued a number, let alone joining the queue, because the rule here is that you must have a number first before joining the queue. I just need some cash to run my family.
Ya muna can wala saboda yanzu haka nan ko da abincinka ne ya gare a gida, even 5,000 zaka nema sai ka ci wala ta ka zo ka bi layi ko mara lafiya kake da shi.
We are facing a lot of problems. It is terrible because you have money but cannot access it. What type of policy is that? If, for instance, you run out of foodstuffs or come down with any health challenge, How will you address that?
But this group is in support of the CBN Naira redesign policy. Azik Balami, who is the convener of the Solidarity Walk, stressed the importance of a new Naira policy and hence his support.
The issue of vote buying is a major problem. It has destroyed Nigeria. It has destroyed the entire continent. And enough is enough. What we are saying here now is we are aware that the Central Bank of Nigeria has released money to all the banks. All the banks have money. But politicians are buying this money from them at a higher cost, at black market rate, thereby frustrating the citizens to go against CBN, to go against the government. We are saying no.
A situation where you have 2.7 trillion naira outside of the banking system
in the pockets of people,
held up in homes, at bunkers and everywhere, does not augur well for the Nigerian economy. And that is the major reason why this Naira redesign. And we are saying that these monies should come back to the votes of the CBN and also permit the banking system so that we will be able to control the money supply in the system and also make our monetary policy very effective. And that is what we are doing. We are fully persuaded that what we are doing is for the benefit of the Nigerian people. We are very, very apolitical. We do not belong to any political persuasion. But what we know is that this is not targeted at anybody.
State governors have called for extension of the old Naira circulation till end of the year, just as National Assembly has recommended 6-month extension. President Buhari will decide on the policy before the new deadline. Well, Samson, Trust TV News, Abuja.
Thank you, Noel, for that report. Now, still on the redesign policy, residents of some communities in Plateau State say business activities have been crippled due to the scarcity of both old and new Naira notes, especially petty trading, which relies on cash transactions. Some of the traders who lamented the cash scarcity, however, said if the new notes are unavailable, the old ones should be allowed for business transaction. Adu Musa completes the report.
Business owners and households across the country continue to lament how business transactions and other day-to-day economic activities are being affected by the recent Naira redesign policy. For traders in Yellowa community of Shandam local government area and Pinau community of Wasi local government area of Plateau State, the negative impact of the policy is getting out of hand with each passing day.
All of my customers are from village, local people. They only transact using cash. They don't actually use online banking. So due to this cash redesign and withdrawal limit, it makes it uncomfortable for me and them to transact.
As grain traders, we go to the villages to buy the grain, and the villages only transact with cash because they don't have bank accounts. As a result of that, we can't travel to the village to buy the grain. Our customers cannot come to us because they don't have the Naira note too. Things were going on well for us before the introduction of these new Naira notes. But today, we are finding it difficult. We took the old notes and deposited into the banks. And when we went to withdraw, they said there was no money. How can we sustain our businesses? The introduction of the new Naira notes by the central bank and the announcement of the deadline for transacting with the old notes continue to generate heated arguments among Nigerians, with many saying the scarcity of both the old and the new notes has crippled businesses in the country. Ado Musa, Trust TV News, Jos.
All right, now the Supreme Court has finally recognized Senate President Ahmed Lawan as the authentic candidate of the All Progressives Congress for Yobe North Senatorial District. The Apex Court's decision sacks Bashir Machina, who was earlier recognized by the Federal High Court in Damaturu as well as the Court of Appeal in Abuja. The report.
Parties waited for the final pronouncement. After an hour of waiting, the court resumed sitting, and then Justice Santos Nweze, who read the lead judgment, held that the decisions of the Federal High Court in Yobe and the Court of Appeal in Abuja were perverse and must be set aside. Justice Santos Onweze faulted the approach of Bashir Machina in commencing the suit at the Federal High Court Dormitory Division through originating summons and without oral evidence to prove allegations of fraud. Outside the court, there were mixed feelings. None of the counsels in court felt the need to talk to media. However, some persons present in court broke the silence.
Alhamdulillah that today we are here at the Supreme Court having concluded the judgment between Ahmed Lawan and Bashir Machina. We are very happy that the judgment favored the Senate President, that by God's grace he has now finally been delivered as the winner in this court. And by God's grace we are gleefully going back to our Zansi, our constituency, to deliver him as the most successful candidate by 2023 elections.
Today we are very happy and satisfaction over the Lava victory. We are describing it as a political journey. This is a sign of rule of law. Thank you very much. We are very happy for that.
The aggrieved parties reserved comment as disappointment was written all over their face. The Supreme Court's decision puts to rest a legal battle that followed the ruling party's senatorial primary in Yobe North Senatorial District. Martia Umar, Trust TV News, Abuja.
Meanwhile, the President of the Senate, Ahmed Lawan, has reacted to the Supreme Court judgment that affirmed his election as APC senatorial candidate for the Yobe North. Take a look.
What happened was democracy at work, and the courts gave their various judgments, and of course the Supreme Court gave the final judgment. I want at this point to commend the Supreme Court and in fact the judiciary generally for making this kind of judgment to strengthen our democracy. Because it's not only for politicians to work and strengthen democracy, it's for all of us, and all the institutions have some roles to play. So I commend the Supreme Court and the judiciary in general. I didn't, as a person, as an individual, go to the Supreme Court to seek for a redress. But my party did, and my people, the people of Yobe North and Yobe State generally, and many political associates and well-wishers and supporters across the country and beyond, who showed interest that there has to be an appeal at the Supreme Court on this matter. So today, this victory is for all of us involved. I am the symbol, but the victory is for our party, the APC, and for democracy.
Well, there you have it. The Senate President there rejoicing over the decision of the Supreme Court, giving him victory. In that sense, he said it's victory for democracy, even though that will be argued by some. Well, we've seen that the courts have brought up certain legalities upon which they took their decisions. They talked about originating summons, wreath of summons, all these technicalities. We look forward to lawyers helping us interpret and explain.
One thing that we need to look at carefully and critically in Nigeria at the moment is the fact that technicalities keep coming up in most judgments these days, you know. So oftentimes you see the judgments are based on technicalities, so we don't really get into the case, as it were.
So, and if you look at, I mean, you have five judges in this instance, 3, 4, and two are against. And so this judgment is here, and we are really looking to hear from Bashir Machina how he feels about this. He haven't granted any interviews so far from what we have seen, and a lot of people will be wondering, how is it that someone who did not participate in a primary election is now, carrying the ticket of an election that he didn't.
That was why when I was reading the judgment, I looked at those that gave the victory to the Senate president. They didn't talk about the case. It was on the technicality. They said that the allegations were too huge to come under originating summons, that it ought to have been under the writ of summon, and that it was based on that. Well,
we'll look forward to having a legal practitioner here in the studio to explain to us, some of these technicalities upon which the judgment was relied upon. Well, we'll take a short breather now, and then when we return, we'll take a look at more issues on the program. Join us again.
That's great. It's good to see you.
TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
But in a situation where you find that they look at the same,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
But I have said that.
All right. Thanks for staying with us. If you are just joining, you're watching Daybreak on Trust Television. Time for us to take a look at the headlines on our papers this morning. Now, on the Daily Trust newspaper, the first story, talking about the lead story now, it says, Naira fuel crisis could hamper Nigerian elections, says World Bank. You also have the riders that says Kaduna, Zamfara, Kogi, sue FG, CBN as court stops extension. 14 political parties threaten poll boycott if, and then you have the ellipsis there. To find the details, you take a look at the story on page 4. And then you have Buhari must act to douse tension. Well, you have also the pictorial showing you death toll in Turkey, Syria earthquake. It said that it hits 3,000 people so far. Now, above the lead story, you have Yobe North. Supreme Court affirms Lawan as APC candidate. You take a look at the details on page 10. IDP stranded as fire raises 200 houses in Borno camp. On page 6, 3 soldiers wounded, 6 villagers killed in Benue attack. That's on page 26. Now you also have NAF aircraft loses tires, makes emergency landing in Lagos on page 26. EFCC arrests Abuja bank manager for holding 29 million naira new notes. You'd find that on page 5. And then Buhari wants killers of 16 Nigerians in Burkina Faso punished. That's on page 3. These are the main stories on the Daily Trust newspaper today.
Now let's take a look at the Punch newspaper. It leads with a story that says, New Naira. Governors' parties begin legal battle over CBN deadline. And the first rider, El-Rufai, Matawale, Yaya Bello sue federal government, demand extension. The second rider says court backs parties, stops CBN Buhari from shifting deadline. We also have EFCC nabs Abuja bank manager hoarding 29 million naira new notes. Beneath that, we have world mourns as earthquake kills over 2,700 in Turkey, Syria. And then we have the picture there depicting the very, very sad incident. And beneath that, we also have thugs disrupt Rivers APC rally, destroy vehicles. Man arraigned for burning wife, brother-in-law to death. Also, 613 billion sukuk loan spent on roads, bridges. This is coming from the federal government. And just by the masthead, we have Lawan's Supreme Court victory, daylight robbery. This is from the Machina camp. And above the masthead, we will hunt down 16 Nigerian killers in Burkina Faso. This is coming from the president. Court stops Lagos International Airport concession. Also, Autumn shuns Atiku campaign, Ayu slams governor. These are the major stories on the Punch for today.
All right, now let's take a look at the Guardian newspaper, where you have the lead story talk about the Naira swap. Now, the story goes this way. It says, court restrains Buhari CBN on February 10 deadline. The writer says that 3 APC governors sue FG over Naira scarcity. Obaseki backs cashless policy. Protesters accuse banks of hoarding, selling Naira notes to politicians for vote buying. 14 political parties threaten to boycott elections if Naira redesign cash withdrawal policies are cancelled. You also have Nasima CBN should have introduced 5,000 Naira note, not redesign Naira. Now you have also above the lead story, Pastor Wale Paul Adefara Singh lose mother at 98. You have again, court commits EFCC boss Bawa to prison for contempt. NIPC moves to improve FDIs, reduce Nigeria's appetite for loans. Katsina attack, death toll may exceed 100 as government urges residents to confront terrorists. You have also below the pictorial, Lawan in Machina out. Supreme Court decision splits lawyers. You'd find that on page 6. Mbaka spits fire over Kanu, Naira redesign, fill scarcity. You'd find out all the details on page 7. These are the major stories on The Guardian today.
Over now to the Nation newspaper, which has a lead story that says, governors ask Supreme Court to halt CBN's Naira swap deadline. And the first rider, Katsina, Kogi, Zamfara states sue federal government. And we also have 4 political parties get High Court injunction to block extension. Still on the nation, we have 3,500 killed in Turkey, Syria earthquakes. And beneath that, Katsina, Buhari seeks 2 million votes for Tinubu. And just beneath the masthead, we have Emefiele's Naira redesign dance and the general election. It's an analysis. And above that, we have trial of Ekweremadu wife, child, doctor begins. Beneath that, why NLC opted for consensus to pick leader. These are the major stories on the nation.
All right, now on the Leadership newspaper this morning, we have the lead story. It says, 3 days to go, cash crunch worsens. Banks defy CBN on 20,000 Naira OTC payment. You also have mammoth crowd persists at ATMs. Kaduna, Kogi, Zamfara approach Supreme Court. 14 parties to boycott 2023 polls if FG dumps policy. Court bars PMB and Emefiele from shifting deadline. You also would have other stories. That's both the lead story. World mourns over 3,000 deaths in Turkey, Syria earthquake. And you have also failed crisis. NNPCL, IPMAN reach agreement on direct supply and pricing. The next story, you have FG awards 85 billion Naira 2023 census contract to indigenous tech giant Zynox. You have also Katsina killings. We lost 102 persons, says community leader. These are the major stories on the Leadership this morning.
Now let's take a look at the Vanguard newspaper. It has a lead story that says, old notes, don't extend February 10 deadline, court tells federal government, CBN. This is as Kogi, Kaduna, Zamfara drag federal government to the Supreme Court. We also have Yobe North, Supreme Court restores Lawan as APC's Senate candidate. Ekweremadu in court as alleged organ harvesting trial commences. Beneath that, rescuers walk through the night after Turkey's Syria quake kills 3,000. And also we have Nigeria footballer Hadi dies in Spain. Also, FS surged 95% as Jet A1 scarcity bites harder. And just above the masthead, PDP APC fight over alleged 22.5 billion Naira vote buying fund. Also, Katsina killing, death toll rises to 100, more residents still missing. These are the stories on the Vanguard newspaper for today.
All right, so let's take a look at the Business Day newspaper. On Business Day, it leads with a story that says, World Bank chiefs rush to Abuja over fears of Azura's $100 million default. This is the main story on the Business Day newspaper. And now it's time for us to take a look at more perspectives on this. We have in the studio our guest reviewer, Dr. Larry Oluwaniyi, a public affairs analyst, join us here. Thank you for joining us on Daybreak this morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Well, a lot of stories this morning on our front pages. The cash crunch is taking a political and legal dimension, as we've seen from stories emanating. The 3 states have approached the Supreme Court to ask CBN to extend the deadline. Already, there's a court order that is saying CBN should not extend the deadline. We've seen protests, those who are for the policy, supporting the CBN, that they should stay with that policy and not extend the deadline, and the rest of them. What do you make of this? And it's only 3 days remaining before the deadline exceeds.
Thank you for having me. No, we're in a situation whereby we have a vacuum in leadership. All manner of things will happen. Vacuum in the sense that I'm not saying that we don't have a leader called Mr. President. We have. But it's more or less like is not proactive to the yearnings of the people. I expected Mr. President, after the visit of the governors and the emirs of the northern state, to let him know. And also he made mention that he watched TV and he saw what is happening. I expected him to act within 24 hours. Within 24, in a normal society, in a society that you have a sound leader.
Well, Dr. Luani, you know that when, shortly before the initial deadline of 31st, the CBN governor visited the president, and the president approved that there should be an extension of 10 days.
Yeah.
I think the question now is, why haven't we seen any change since that extension?
We have not seen change because there are a lot of political undertone. That is why you can see some political party can have a moral right to go to approach court for federal government not to extend the deadline. And a lot of people are suffering, and you call yourself a political party. So what are you campaigning for?
So they will argue that at the end of the day, it's in the best interest of
no. Since the beginning of this, nobody argued the best interest.
And again, let's look at it from this way. Don't you think that we are channeling aggression or misdirecting our anger to the wrong place? So, for instance, the CBN talks about commercial banks hoarding the new Naira notes. And we've heard stories about how politicians go to these banks and take out the money in large amounts. So don't you think that we should be looking at the commercial banks?
How many commercial banks will you monitor? That's the question. Why do they have to bring out the policy when the election is approaching? When they know the nature of the politician we have in the country? We should not deceive ourselves.
Perhaps this will also help vote buying.
It's not about vote buying. You can listen to Governor Rufai that if they want vote buying, they know how to do it. Politicians will always find their way out of any issue. But the Nigerian citizens are the victim of this policy. That's all.
So in your view, what's the way out? Because it doesn't appear as if the queues are getting any shorter.
I've said it time with that number. The only way out is let the new Naira and the old Naira coexist for the period of nothing less than 1 year or 6 months. If you have a good intention, if it's not political which want, if it's not to put people impoverished, let the new, is it not our Naira?
We understand that one of the reasons why this was, well, maybe not officially said, but a lot of people are confident that this will help, particularly the issue of vote buying. I stay with that because you know, we know how Nigerian politics works. We know how elections works. Usually people will take out cash during elections and, you know, buy their way in to the political parties. So isn't that a good thing for our democracy? And if you say extend by 6 months, wouldn't it?
No, it's a good thing. Nobody is see, we should not run beyond our age. Nobody is supporting vote buying. Everybody is against vote buying. Everybody wants cleansing in the electoral system.
Are you sure it's everybody that wants
Okay, let's say majority of us that we believe in a good democracy. But the issue there is, are you going to solve that 3 months to election? You see, that is a genuine question.
Maybe not
if you want to do this,
maybe not entirely, but
but why are you doing it half-baked?
Maybe in part.
You will have started 1 year ago, 2 years ago. Are they just aware of vote buying?
But
no. Let's face the truth. In 2019, is there not vote buying? Why did President Muhammadu Buhari not brought out this policy 3 months to 2019 election?
But the question, Doctor, the question a lot of people are asking is, a party that is in government, that is going into an election, will do everything within its power to ensure that it gets re-elected. Now, we saw a package earlier from Delta State where people were talking about queues at petrol station. And then we have queues at ATMs in front of the banks, people looking for money. And this is a party going for re-election. Why is that so? Why is it that we don't see this party trying to do everything within its power to make sure that...
To please the people, we are all aware of it. There are fit economists that are working around all these things. There are sabotage. So everybody is aware of that. It's not any longer a news, but their aims is to make sure that the election does not come. So our responsibility as a citizen of the country is to remain calm and make sure that we fought these people, these few people that are fighting the Nigerian economy.
Doctor, I don't know if you've seen some of the videos going viral on social media where officials of the EFCC and the ICPC are making arrests and visiting certain banks where they will find large cash, new Naira notes hoarded in vaults, in banks and the rest of them. There's a story here that says EFCC arrest Abuja bank manager for hoarding 29 million Naira new notes.
Has he been prosecuted?
He has been arrested.
He's been arrested.
He has been arrested, but follow the story, okay? That is the work of a journalist. The journalist will not follow that story.
First of all, you have to be arrested.
He has been arrested. At the end of the day, he was going to be released at the backyard.
Well,
how do you
because he's doing the bidding of those that are put in there.
Well,
a bank manager cannot just have the courage to keep such amount of money in his bank if there is no order somewhere. That is the country we find ourselves.
Okay, we also had a report at the weekend where a bank manager wrapped the money and put it in the ATM machine. So there was no way the money could dispense because it was wrapped and put together.
Just to prove that when the monitoring team comes, they can say, I've put the new note, but I don't know why it's not dispensing. All are still gimmicks. We should not deceive ourselves.
So aren't these the saboteurs for this?
They are part of it. Yes,
if
they
the
are.
CBN have decided that, look, this is what we want to achieve, and some people, for whatever reason, have decided that, look, we want to, make business out of this. We want to racketeer. We want to,
Now, do you know what happened in Borno? When the governor of Borno visited all the banks and he saw that they are not dispensing new notes, when he threatened them that he's going to revoke their land, they are not going to be in operation in the state any longer, they started dispensing new notes. Why bankers all over the country decided not to dispense new notes? That must be a game somewhere.
Then we shouldn't be blaming the CBN.
No. CBN is the umpire. We can't say we can't blame CBN. In a normal society, a Mayfield is supposed to resign by now.
But the CBN says it has sent all its staff out of the head office to go into localities and to monitor these banks. What else do you think the CBN should do at this point?
The CBN policy has failed from day one. So there is nothing you want to... I was listening to a video, a Zoom meeting by the Professor Yemi Oshibajo with some other experts. I was just laughing. Before you start a policy, you must look at your implementation and your strategy and the level of your citizen. So when you have not achieved that at the formulation of the policy, and you deploy a policy outside and it brings a backfiring, you will withdraw. Immediately it backfire and you see that you don't get it right. In a normal society, you just technically withdraw it or use another formula. What is another formula? We don't need too much of rhetoric. We don't need too much of grammar. You don't need to be an economic expert to solve this problem. The problem is extend the date, let the both new and the old coexist for the meantime. After the election, find a solution for us.
The president, after the meeting last Friday with governors, said they should give him 7 days.
We are waiting
the 7 days will be elapsing by Thursday.
Yes, we are waiting for him.
What are you expecting? What do you
We are expecting extension because as far as I'm concerned, as of today, we are not seeing the money anywhere.
Aside the extension, some persons are saying they don't care about any extension. Just provide the money.
If you provide us enough money, we don't even need your extension. Yes. If you provide us a new Naira note today, we don't need your extension. But with the situation of things, they cannot distribute a new Naira to across them with the level of the bank operators that are holding the money and the saboteurs among them. So the best way, the best approach is just extension. It will ease the tension.
At the end of the day, the goal of this policy, part of the goal is to ensure that there is less cash in circulation. Because the central bank talks about, having higher amount of cash in circulation being an impediment to making sure that some of the monetary policies that they make have an effect. So they want to mop up the cash to make sure that there's less circulation of this cash. So if this extension that you keep insisting on, don't you think that it will defeat the whole idea?
The whole idea has already been defeated. I can tell him if he's here. The whole idea has already been defeated.
How about, don't you think
because you can't do, you don't get what I'm saying.
Don't you think that all they need to do is some amendments to this?
You don't get what I'm saying here. We are in democracy. We are not in a military dictatorship. Any policy you are bringing during democracy era must reflect the will of your people.
But CBN is empowered to do this.
It is empowered to do it, but if it does not reflect the will of your people, it's a failed policy.
Even if it is to the detriment of the people?
It's not at our detriment at this time. It's not a do or die affairs at this moment. It's not affecting our right to life on international law.
All right, then. So let's look at another issue here, talking about fuel crisis. Also, it's one other crisis that Nigerians are having to deal with in the past, I would say, from last year, as a matter of fact. I saw a memo earlier on talking about suspension of service by the Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria. It says that following the critical situation as it affects the sourcing and selling of the product at loss, and the action of authority to impose the selling of product at loss price on our site, the marketers are instructed to suspend selling at all filling stations. So that's a memo dated 6th of February, even though we are not able to verify this, but this is it. Having this happen now, the fuel situation has been flip-flop. You know, in one day you find it, you go to the filling stations, you find it available. The next one you go, you see long queues and all that. What exactly is the problem here with this fuel crisis?
There is no any problem that they want to remove subsidy, technically. Nigeria as a government, we don't have enough capacity to be paying for subsidy any longer. And they don't have the morale and the boldness to tell the Nigerian populace.
Does it have to come in this manner?
That is why you can't see what they said. They said they are running at loss.
But
because it's federal government that is paying the loss before.
But Doctor, you remember last week, INEC raised an alarm that if this fuel scarcity continues, it could affect the movement of election materials across the country. And now Ipman is saying this. Isn't that risky for the election?
Hey, that's what we are saying. What we are saying is that all these plans are few people somewhere trying to make sure that the election does not come to realization. So our responsibility as a citizen is to make sure that we have our election is being conducted. Whether they plan, but I'm very concerned with INEC because I know much about INEC observing. Because if there is no petrol on that day, there will not be enough way that material can reach the rural areas. So these are things federal government under the leadership of President Muhammadu Buhari should look into as a matter of urgency. How can we provide solution here? Can we still manage to pay subsidy for 2 months more so that things can be normalized, so that we have our democracy in our hands? Because it's better we have our democracy. That's what people don't realize. It's better we have our democracy in our hands. And after the election, after May 29, we now begin to challenge the new government with all these things.
All right. Well, thank you so much. We have to bring it to an end here. We thank you for joining us on Daybreak and for sharing your perspectives with us. Dr. Larry Oluwani is our guest reviewer this morning on the show. We'll take a short break now, and then when we return, the program will continue. Join us again.
But in a situation where you find that they look like the same,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
I have said that.
Welcome back from that break. It's Daybreak. We're 1 hour into the show already. If you're just joining, you can always watch us across all social media platforms on the YouTube live stream. Now, for those who are just joining, we'll be taking a look at the headlines again. Of course, the conversation is all about the cash crunch and the fuel scarcity this morning. The headlines goes this way. 3 APC governors sue FG over Naira scarcity.
Court strikes out 2.9 billion naira fraud suit against Okorocha, others.
Nigerian footballer slumps, dies in Spain.
Now let's take a look at the details. 3 governors of the ruling All Progressives Congress APC have sued the federal government over the Naira redesign policy of the Central Bank of Nigeria. The issue of Naira redesign has generated tension in the country owing to the scarcity of the new notes. Governors Nasir El-Rufai of Kaduna State, Yaya Bello of Kogi State, and Bello Matawale of Zamfara State dragged the federal government before the Supreme Court. The states are seeking a declaration that the demonetization policy of the Federation being currently carried out by the CBN under the directive of President Muhammadu Buhari is not in compliance with the extant provisions of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended, Central Bank of Nigeria Act 2007, and actual laws on the subject. They're also asking the court to make a declaration that a 3-month notice given by the federal government and the CBN under the directive of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the expiration of which will render old notes inadmissible as legal tender, is in gross violation of the provisions of Section 20, subsection 3 of the Central Bank of Nigeria Act 2007, which specifies that reasonable notice must be given before such a policy and that the limit cannot be outside that approved under Section 22, subsection 1 of the CBN Act 2007.
A federal high court in Abuja on Monday discharged a former governor of Imo State, Senator Rochas Okorocha, of 2.9 billion naira fraud charge preferred against him by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. Justice Inyang Eko, in a ruling, struck out the EFCC's suit for being in contravention of Section 105, sub 3 of the Administration of Criminal Justice Act, ACJA 2015, which gives the Honorable Attorney General of the Federation the power to recall a case. Justice Eko said that the directive of the AGF and the Minister of Justice, Abubakar Malami, in a letter dated September 12, 2022, to the Anti-Graft Agency to forward the case file as well as the EFCC's comments on the issues for consideration and review was binding on the Commission. The judge further held that from the moment the AGF gave the directive to the EFCC, the Commission ceased to have the legal authority to prosecute or continue the prosecution of the case.
Now, on a sad note, former Jigawa United defender Hadi Adobala has collapsed and died during a home match between his club, CD Marievo FC, and SP Canabilas in Spain Division. The incident reportedly occurred on Sunday. The Castilla-Mancha Football Federation said in a statement that the Nigerian youngster slumped for no apparent reason in the 39th minute of the match. Medical personnel on the ground at the stadium were said to have immediately come to his aid, but efforts to revive him proved abortive as he was later pronounced dead. Speaking with Daily Trust in Kafanchan, Kaduna State, the deceased eldest brother, Misbah Adobala, who spoke on behalf of the family, described the death as a loss not only to the family, but to Nigerians and the world of football.
Now, the Supreme Court has finally recognized Senate President Ahmed Lawan as the authentic candidate of the All Progressives Congress for Yobe North Senatorial District. The Apex Court's decision sacks Bashir Machina, who was earlier recognized by the Federal High Court in Damaturu, as well as the Court of Appeal in Abuja. Here is that report.
After the first sitting to deliberate and pass in the judgment, uncertainty reigned supreme as parties waited for the final pronouncement. After an hour of waiting, the court resumed sitting, and then Justice Santos Nweze, who read the lead judgment, held that the decisions of the Federal High Court in Yobe and the Court of Appeal in Abuja were perverse and must be set aside. Justice Santos Nweze faulted the approach of Bashir Machina in commencing the suit at the Federal High Court Damaturu Division through originating summons and without oral evidence to prove allegations of fraud. Outside the court, there were mixed feelings. None of the counsels in court felt the need to talk to media. However, some persons present in court broke the silence.
Alhamdulillah that today we are here at the Supreme Court having concluded the judgment between Ahmed Lawan and Bashir Machina. We are very happy that the judgment favored the Senate President, that by God's grace has now finally been delivered as the winner in this court. And by God's grace, we are gleefully going back to our Zansi, our constituency, to deliver him as the most successful candidate by 2023 elections.
Today we are very happy and satisfaction over the Lava victory. We are describing it as a political journey. This is a sign of rule of law. Thank you very much. We are very happy for that.
The aggrieved parties reserved comment as disappointment was written all over their face. The Supreme Court's decision puts to rest a legal battle that followed the ruling party's senatorial primary in Yobe North Senatorial District. Martia Umar, Trust TV News, Abuja.
Meanwhile, the President of the Senate, Ahmed Lawan, has reacted to the Supreme Court judgment that affirmed his election as the APC senatorial candidate for Yobe North. Let's take a look.
What happened was democracy at work, and the courts gave their various judgments, and of course the Supreme Court gave the final judgment. I want at this point to commend the Supreme Court and in fact the judiciary generally for making this kind of judgment to strengthen our democracy. Because it's not only for politicians to work and strengthen democracy, it's for all of us, and all the institutions have some roles to play. So I commend the Supreme Court and the judiciary in general. I didn't, as a person, as an individual, go to the Supreme Court to seek for a redress. But my party did, and my people, the people of Yobe North and Yobe State generally, and many political associates and well-wishers and supporters across the country and beyond, who showed interest that there has to be an appeal at the Supreme Court on this matter. So today, this victory is for all of us involved. I am the symbol, but the victory is for our party, the APC, and for democracy.
All right, now let's take some interpretation of this. We have joining us former chairman, Nigerian Bar Association, Ikeja branch, Monday Ubani, who joins us via phone from Lagos to talk about this. Thank you so much for joining us, Monday, on Daybreak this morning.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Well, the Senate President, if you've listened to him, described this judgment as democracy at work. He said this is victory for democracy. We'd like to get your own perspective on this judgment. What do you think of this?
Well, you can afford to say that democracy is at work because he has been declared the winner by the Supreme Court. The thing is this. There are issues that are becoming clearer from this electoral act that has been enacted. The tyranny of the political parties is still established. That one we cannot take away. Secondly, the judiciary still remains the final arbiter on electoral issues, no matter whatever you think you have done at the polling unit. Unless the court makes a final pronouncement on the eligibility or on your qualification or on the fact that you are the one who has won, then you can't go home rejoicing that you have won. The court has the final say on these electoral issues in Nigeria as far as this electoral act is concerned. And then thirdly, the lawyers you employ commencing your action in electoral matters are key. If they use the wrong, if they use the reliefs, it's not couched in such a manner to comply with the rules of the court, then there's going to be a problem. That is actually what happened. The court was saying that, look, this particular matter that happened was criminal, you allege crime, and so you cannot commence a criminal case by originating someone. You have to do that by writ of summons that will require oral evidence. And so in the absence of oral evidence in the case, in a matter that you have alleged crime, proving beyond reasonable doubt.
All right.
Proving beyond, then you're in trouble. So that is actually what happened.
All right, Mr. Monday, thank you for joining us. The thing is this, these days we see a lot of cases that are either dismissed or somebody wins the case based on technicalities. Why are we having too many of these technicality issues coming up in cases?
You mean in pre-election matters?
Yes.
Okay, you know what I will do now, I'm entering the studio. I'm entering the studio now. Let me call you back now. You can please, I beg of you. Please.
All right. Well, we'll take a short breather now, and then when we return, the program will continue. Join us again. All right, thank you for staying with us. This is Daybreak on Trust Television. We couldn't proceed with the interview with Monday Ubani, but we'll do that subsequently to bring more perspectives to the issue of the Senate President and the court. Now, we will be taking the next discussion. The New Nigeria People's Party has said that it was fully prepared for the 2023 general elections, and that mobilization of citizens commenced the day the 2019 general elections ended. Now, this is contradicting as it is on record that the presidential candidate of the NNPP, former Governor of Kano State, Senator Rabiu Kwankwaso, joined the party on March 29th, 2022. We'll be taking a look at this, the readiness and the preparation of the party ahead of the election in less than 20 days. We have in the studio the national chairman of the party, Professor Rufai Ali. Thank you so much for joining us on Daybreak this morning.
Thank you very much. Good morning to all of you.
Well, I mean, the presidential candidate of your party, Rabiu Kwankwaso, joined the party in March 2022, and a lot of people will be saying, well, is he really prepared to take on what is ahead as far as the demands of an election requires?
Well, thank you very much. Well, just a small correction. He did not join NNPP on 28th or 29th of March. Rather, there was a merger between the national movement and the NNPP on March 1st, 2022. And that was the last day before INEC closed all issue of mergers between political parties and associations. Yes, the NNPP was there since 2001, but it's not been very strong nationwide. So the coming of the Senator Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso and his team of the national movement changed the narrative. And we had, within the first 1 month, first part of it, we had to do what you call caretaker committees from top, bottom. And then we started elections from bottom up. So by the end of the March, we were able to have leadership of the party nationwide. So today, NNPP has the structures from the wards to the local governments, and then to the seats, to the zones, and then to the national level. So yes, many people felt that or thought that after the coming of PDP and APC, it would have been very difficult to have another political party. But you know, there are about 93 political parties in 2018, 2019. Some of them were deselected or deregistered by the INEC. But then some of them remained, including this NNPP. So on the nominal roll of the INEC today, we have 18. But our joining of NNP changed the dynamics completely. And why many people are thinking that you cannot come out and with anything new, anything different, is because already we are used to the all new normal. That right. If things, even when they are bad, we are much happier and much more comfortable with them.
All right, Prof, let's start with the first election that we'll be having. It's 18 days to the presidential election. How ready is the NNPP?
I think we are, because one of the most important things you should know is that, for example, what is the state of the party today compared to all the other parties that we are having now on the nominal of the INEC. NNPP has everything on the ground, not all the party structure as mentioned earlier, no. During the run-up to the primaries and submission of our names to INEC, we have been able to conduct all our primaries for all the positions in the country, from the House of Assembly, House of Reps, Senate, governorship, and then our presidential candidate. And we follow due process because we are conscious of the Electoral Act. We are also conscious of the provision of the Nigerian Constitution. We are also conscious of our own Constitution, our own guideline for our primaries. So we have been able to have our candidates all over the country. Secondly, we also adopted a different strategy in campaign. You know, the strategy has always been very loud, noisy. People flying from one state capital to another state capital, making noise, talking for about a minute or two, dancing and leaving. But then Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso came up with something very unique. In the past 5 months, he has gone toward virtually all part of the country, quietly, but efficiently and effectively. And he,
but with a political.
Can I explain so that I don't lose? my thoughts.
Okay.
Yes, sorry. Because our viewers will want to know the trend. Otherwise, we lose again.
Yeah, you said something that I wanted to say something
you
in
will
line
come,
with.
You will say it. You will say it. Because it's very important people know that this is a unique approach, that a presidential candidate is moving by road most of the time and going to virtually most of the local government. I believe by now over 600 local government have been visited by him and our team. And then we go to villages, we go to local governments, we go to communities. So we bond with them, we relate with them, we understand their problems. It's not like just going and jumping. Initially, first phase was actually not campaign. Initial phase was to reach out, to know the people, let them know us, so that it's not that now it's time for election, I'm coming here, come vote for me. No, the first phase was more or less is softening the ground. And when we are sufficiently happy with that process, then by the time I open the corridor for campaign, then we move to the next level of now real reaching out to the people. There was a time he left for 1 week. He left from Abuja here, and he passed through Niger, he passed from Kwara, passed all the southwestern states, and reached Ibadan around 2 a.m. in the morning. No presidential candidate has ever done that. So what is happening is that, and then of course, finally, we have also launched our rallies at zonal rallies. We have done that in Bauchi for Northeast. We have done that for Kaduna for the Northwest. We have done that for Nasarawa for the North Central. And we have gone to Ibadan for the Southwest. And we are doing differently from the others. And now we are heading for South, and Southeast. So what you are saying here is that from the feelers, from the reaction of people, they're saying that this is the first time a presidential candidate is coming to know who they are and what they are concerned, what their feelings, what their problems. So that by the time he takes over authority of government on May 29, God willing, he is not going to be asking people what are the problems of the people, because he knows the problems.
Well, other contemporaries, your contemporaries in other political parties will argue that this is not the first time that politicians will be visiting people and be hearing from people. Instead, what happens is that after hearing from the people and speaking with them, at the end of the day, once the election season is over, they don't get to see the politicians again. So that's one thing. And then you talk about his strategy being very quiet and, you know, very unique and the rest of them. Some will say, well, with politics, can it really be quiet? Can you really, you know, be quiet? So if this strategy that you say is unique, isn't it just something that you may say, well, is because of his lack of popularity that people don't really get to hear as much as other candidates?
Well, I would resist the temptation of getting angry with you because you are my friend and brother, but for you to look at me and say Central Musa says I'm popular or lack of popularity, I feel is not a fair question from you, sir. But all the same, let me start from the earlier question. Yes, first, there's a lot of cynicism in this country, and it's justified. Because true, a number of occasions politicians will come and campaign for elections. And at the end of the day, they disappoint. Is it not what we are facing today? Today, APC is symbolizes what you call the advanced form of, I don't want to say failure. I think if I say failure, I think I'm right. Because when they came in 2015, the feeling was that they are going to solve so miserable because they tried to rubbish everything that PDP did in 16 years. All right? They did that. Tried to rubbish it. Okay, since you rubbished the PDP at that time, fine. Do something different, something better. But you can see for every step they take, a series of mistakes and missteps. There's nothing that can explain this more than what is happening today. The issue of fuel crisis. The issue of currency change. The fuel crisis is not new, so you cannot blame APC completely on that. It's not been new. But the fact that the people in charge here know the system very, very well. They are directly in charge of this. They have known it before, that they should have given Nigeria a different leaf of life. But now, as we are facing election in few days, like we are just saying, 20 days, today nobody can be sure that you can move from wherever you are to your polling unit safely, comfortably, and vote and come out. That's what we are seeing now. Now, if we are talking about fuel crisis, it's a recurrent issue and it has come to this particular point it's not supposed to, and now we are talking about currency charge. We have been saying that there is no reason under the surface of that for the CBN to start unilaterally without coordinating with other agencies of government.
Okay.
Just like that.
So just so
just
that
to
we
go
don't
and say you want to change currency overnight, and then you don't do a template that this systematic, organized, scientific, which has been done in this country, which has been done in other part of the world. So, and you choose a time when you are getting ready for elections and you do it. And look at what you have.
Okay, just so we don't deviate.
No, we are not deviating, sir.
Yes,
we are trying
to. Let me
Uh-huh.
just bring this out.
I have not answered that question of lack of popularity, remember, up to now.
Well, so that's what I'm waiting for.
Yes.
You are taking to another discussion already.
Yes.
Still talking about the issue of popularity, I want to know how concerned you are. The provisions of the Constitution provides that, you know, for you to win the election, you need at least, 25% in at least 24 states of the Federation. There are those who consider the NNPP candidate as, you know, just being popular from the northern part of the country. So are you concerned that he may not be able to pull the 25% in, you know, this number of states?
You see, I think, okay, let me address this. Is related to the first part of the second part of your earlier question. You see, the whole thing that you have to understand Nigeria as it is operating today. If you look at Central Musa Konkoso, and I'm not talking because I'm the national chairman of NNPP. Any Nigerian today knows. All those now that are contesting for the presidency of this country, let them put them in a basket. Don't talk Konkoso alone in isolation. What is their own claims? All the four of them. How they became something in Nigeria. All of them, the only thing they can claim, the three of them, they were governors. Tinubu was a governor, Peter Obi was a governor, Konkoso was a governor. Of course, Atiku was never a governor. He was elected, but he was never, the election was not consummated. He became a vice president and became a vice president, and that was it. But after that, what else? Let's say Tinubu was a senator for a short period of time, but he had a full term of 4 years. Central Musa Konkoso. Then who was a minister? He was the only one who served also as a minister after that. And then see that, I remember, look at Kano, it's 44 local governments in the heartland of northern Nigeria. Before, during, and after he became governor, he has remained a phenomenon in northern Nigeria. Anybody who says that Konkoso is not a factor or an actor today in Nigerian politics, then he must have come from another part of the world. So for him to remain relevant and remain strong is not only because he was a governor. No, they were governors. Not because he was minister, they were ministers. And not because he was a senator, they were senators. But because while he was there, he was serving the people with all his heart and mind. He worked and looked at what of the areas that will affect their life of the ordinary citizens of the people. Education, healthcare, water, security, and social condition. So what I'm saying is that by the time he has, and this is not the first time he's contesting, he has contested before. But what we are saying here is that he has become a factor and actor, and that, remember, that when he came out, many people initially said, NNPP is not going nowhere. That's what they said. That's like you're trying to say. They said there's not going to go anywhere. We say, okay, fine. We are very comfortable with that. Police in police is good to be taken for granted. It gave us breathing space, gave us time to build the momentum. And now we have done that.
All right, Prof.
Today, you have even advanced a little further now. It's a second question that now he is a phenomenon in northern Nigeria. Yes, but let me tell you, there's no state in this country that Konkoso will go and people will not say, come out without any prompting, without funding, without crowdfunding, crowd mobilization. People will come because they believe in him.
Okay, Prof. I'm still on to the question by my co-anchor.
Yes.
When you talk NNPP, it's mostly Kano, Katsina, Jigawa. It doesn't appear as if the party has been able to break that boundary, that barrier. And are you, Prof, will you say today that NNPP is accepted very well in the South-South, Southeast, and Southwest? I know you've talked about his exploits as governor in Kano State, but is that enough, Prof?
Maybe it is the first time we are meeting with you here in this morning show. maybe my second time, but for an interview like this, the first time I'm having you. But I know that I had come to this Trust TV dialogue several times, and this question you're asking, we are past those levels. We are past those. For somebody to say that NMPP is a Kano affair or is a Sokoto affair, we have passed that phase. We have passed, and I think the earlier people know this, the better. Let me tell you. Let me tell you what happened in Gombe, my own state. When we came in, NMPP, people say, Alkali, last time you brought SDP, we are not interested. The other time, okay, you did PDP, fine. Now, NMPP, we are not sure. But let me tell you, in the past 10 months, since we're talking about March, no, things have changed in Gombe in a very radical and fundamental way that had not happened in the past. One of the elements was that we never had a member of House of Assembly, for instance. Not a single one, because there was no election yet. But through the effort, our own effort and the effort of our governorship candidate, Melantarki, already now we have 4 members of House of Assembly before going to general elections. And the last 2 weeks, the House of Assembly sat down and said, okay, PDP had 2, now we didn't have any. Now because we have 4, we are now the minority leader in the House of Assembly. In Bauchi, we have senators, sitting senators, who are now contesting for governorship or resigning as senators and now at Lekit. In every state you go around, either former senators, former governors, serving senators, serving members of the House of are our candidates. So I think, well, because we sometimes, like I said, we have a fixated mind that it is either the PDP or APC, which to us are 2 sides of the same coin, that people are not ready, that we are ready to look ahead 2 years back, that these 2 parties are not going to manage Nigeria again. And look at it. So now while we are taking all the, we have our leader had the vision and commitment and determination. And through our own also support, we found that we believe that Nigeria of today is not Nigeria of yesterday. And therefore, for anybody to think that NMPP is a regional party or is a state party or is ethnic party, again, is missing the point.
All right.
The fundamental thing is that Nigerians need change, they need genuine change, and that in fact, are you happy with what is happening today? Let me ask the question.
Are
you happy?
Well, Chairman, the thing is, we need to give you the opportunity to tell those who hold those opinions, those perceptions about the NNPP being a regional party and the rest of them, which is why we're asking all these questions. So thankfully you've responded to them well enough. Let's talk about the plans of your candidate, Rabiu Kwankwaso. Nigeria is currently facing an energy crisis, if you like, going by the fuel queues that we see, the flip-flop in the supply chain. Also, whoever is going to become Nigeria's president is going to be inheriting about 77 trillion debt, So in terms of sourcing for revenue, to be able to deal with some of these issues, oil has been a major contributor to our economy in terms of foreign exchange. What would your candidate be doing differently as far as energy is concerned in Nigeria?
Well, thank you very much. At least now you know that Nigeria requires change, and we need this change. Of course, like you said, the question was supposed to provoke me to explain further, which I have, that we keep on wondering why, when we know there are issues, there are problems, challenges facing our country, and we think that we want to do the same thing repeatedly on, and thinking that we're going to get different results. That's why we say we cannot, unless we break. In fact, if you may recall, sir, there was something came up into the Nigerian mind that there is a need for the third force. Nobody knew what that third force was all about. Its form, its character, its nature. But when the third force came, they did not recognize the deal with the third force. And as far as we are concerned, we say we are not even talking about third force. We are talking about the force. The reason is that people are fed up with what we are having. Now to your question. You see, anybody who takes over Nigeria on 29th of May is not only inheriting 77 trillion naira of debt. In fact, it is the smaller part of the problem. The bigger part of the problem, you are inheriting a nation that is no more the same as it was before. The deep division in the country, which was created by politicians, self-serving politicians, deep division in the country. The first major challenge of anybody taking over now is to reunite this country. The second one is people are losing hope. In this platform here in Trust, not this one, the previous interaction I had, I said people have lost hope in the country, they have lost hope in democracy, they are even losing hope in themselves. Again, you must bring back that hope. Although some people are saying renewing hope, well, if you are part of the issue, the problem, how can you renew hope yourself? Because you are part of the problem. So we are saying that you have to, bring back, let people know that there is a day that they will also count. Nigeria today has, as an image, the third point, the image of a country today, as a Nigerian. I don't know when last you traveled out of the country and what went through the checkpoints. Today, when you go out, you can hardly be proud of yourself as a Nigerian. This is the story you are getting. So you are inheriting a country that is on its knees. So the issue of the economy, which APC promised, I think this is what we have gotten now after the final results. When the final results were announced on 29th of May, I don't know whether APC will be happy with the result of what they have done about the economy. Because there is nothing now that explains the unfortunate incident where the currency change has now affected virtually everything. I don't want to go back to that. Now, so what you're talking about, he is promising that linking the economy, the issue of education, job creation are related, and security. They are all one and the same. They are all interconnected. And that's why he said the first thing is that if you must talk about getting resources for the country to not only to pay for the debts or to manage them, but also to run the country as a whole and then to bring back life to the system, then it means you have to bring back security into the country. Apart from bringing hope, security, and that's why the government under NPP is planning to have more military officers, more police officers, more better kitting, better welfare conditions, better technology. So because we have soldiers who are ready to fight in this country, who are killing, have been losing their lives because of this country. Oh. What they need is only a small push. So no, I wanted to relate this thing so that I don't miss again. It's very important because our viewers will have to understand this issue. They are connected. I don't want to go in just a point, jumping from point to point, because you ask a fundamental question, and that's the fundamental question Nigeria want to get answer to, and that is the economy and the security are connected. Therefore, talking about the trillions, yes, the countries have debts, but some manage them. Some don't money.
But for you to be able to do that, you need to be able to fund the military, for instance. If you talk about addressing the issue of insecurity, you need a lot of funding to be able to provide, to be able to recruit more personnel into the defense force or the armed force. You need a lot of money to invest in equipment, in military hardware and the rest of them. Where is the money going to come from?
Yes, it's a very good question. And it's not even the issue of education. When he said we're going to provide education for the youth, people ask the same question. But I believe you and me and my sister will agree that one, there is lack of priorities in this country. If there are proper prioritization of the issues in this country, you cannot take security as a secondary factor, or even education as a secondary factor, as it's been done now. Only recently universities were closed for 9 months. It's part of a decay in the system which cannot be recovered so easily. Now, so lack of priority is a problem. Secondly, mismanagement of resources. You and me here, we read every day in the newspapers. Today we open your paper. Billions of naira missing here and there. In the past we talk about millions. Now we are leading to trillions. Now, whether it's true or not, the fact that people are talking about this amount of money, is wasted. or is is taken away by somebody or group of persons is sufficient to point to let you know that Nigerian resources are being plundered. Last point on this matter again. It is the security we are talking about again. I'm sorry today, I hope I'm not being stubborn. The security again. We have been saying, and our leader has been saying that if, for example, OPEC gave us, let's say, a maximum of, let's say, 2.2 million barrels per day, calculated by the average rate of the dollar per barrel, okay? And then, but you cannot produce up to that. You produce maybe 1 million, or a little more, a little less. Are you not losing 1 million barrels every day? And that much, why are you losing that? Because of the security of the infrastructure in the oil sector. So if you can provide the security, it means the money you are looking for is already, it can take care of itself. So it means that while you must secure the country, you must secure our assets. National assets must be secured and protected. Of course, remember that the securing of the lives and property is the primary one. But then you must also secure the asset. And when you do that, you do the prioritization, and then you also eliminate excesses.
Prof, that's why our viewers and people who maybe support your party will want to hear specifics. For instance, he asked about where the fund is going to come from. Mr. Chair, you haven't answered the question. And also, so that you put them together, your candidate is key on education. Oftentimes he talks about the fact that people will not have to pay for JAM and all of that. And Nigerians would like to know, where is he going to get the money to fund all of this? Putting into consideration the economic situation of the country at the moment.
When I was talking, I was not replying you, I was answering you. Maybe you didn't listen to me, my sister, very well. 3 areas I mentioned. First, I said there is wastage. 2, I said the lack of priorities. 3, we said the sources of our revenue, assuming that we are not even talking about agriculture and other sectors of the economy, we are even talking about oil alone. Now, we say we are not getting the best from the oil sector itself. This is not what we are saying. We are saying that assuming if you are supposed to produce 2 million barrels every day and you are producing less than that, already you are losing amount every day. You're losing amount like you are losing half of the amount of money you are collecting every day. So it means already it's the West. You are losing money, which is available for you from the oil sector. That now we are talking the major contributor to the foreign exchange earnings. Then we are saying that there is a lot of lack of priority. If you spend money on other issues, for example. Well, you may say it's too much politics. I had a minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, a serving minister today. He was campaigning. He said they have money enough to win elections. If they have money enough to win elections, how can they have no money enough to manage security situation in this country? I don't want to go to that far, at that point. So now we are saying that you also prioritize. If you prioritize in education, on security, then it means, for example, in the case of the security, and that's they are dialectically connected, is that by saying that you are going to recruit 1 million policemen, 1 million military, you are removing at least at that point in time 2 million youth out of the streets, who are also supposed to be productive and helpful, not only protecting the security, but also taking care of their families. And then we say also, NYSC, when they finish, they complete their 1 year. You also, before you open another corridor for them to also, if they wish to join the military or the police, they could also be given that rather from the job market, and they're looking for people to recruit in the services. And there is a system that we are also creating, which it makes it easier even to recruit police and security without recruiting back into the system. That is the community participation and reorientation committees at the ward level and local government. So what we are saying is that there's a systematic way of doing it. Now, if people now, the issue of corruption that people have been talking about is that also government want to discourage it. It's not allow the problem to come and pursue people, discourage it in the first place.
How?
Yeah.
How? Let's get specific. How will your candidate
You see, if government is firm, our government must be firm. For example, there's a slogan we have that anybody who is given an assignment, any responsibility at whatever level, will be given targets. If you don't meet the targets, then you are going to be the target. Meaning, anybody who messes up at whatever level, first and foremost, he'll not be allowed to continue. For example, if somebody like a minister who, let's say, who is given to go and negotiate with labor, okay? Let's say like the Minister of Labor. I don't want to mention his name, you name. You know, the way he managed that Minister of Labor and Productivity, they make him manage the issue of ASU negotiation. Even as somebody, not a politician, shouldn't do that. You know? So every way that you can avoid crisis, avoid conflict, you should avoid it. Meaning that you have to engage people, carry everybody along, so that everybody will have a sense of belonging. In the issue of education sector, we are talking about is that in this country, we play with it. But no country which wishes to succeed and advance that can joke with its education sector.
Okay, let's talk about this education. There are those who say that, look, in terms of education, yes, we have a very high number of out-of-school children, but at the tertiary level, we churn out thousands of graduates every year who end up graduating without jobs. So in terms of job creation, what can we do aside from just educating people and they leave the institutions? What's your candidate going to do about the unemployment in the country, which experts believe is even way above the official statistics given of 33%? What will he do about job creation?
I think, let me answer in two ways. One, philosophically speaking, knowledge itself is an end in itself, philosophically speaking. But it's also a means to further ends. So having education is good, because if people are educated, at least the kind of thing you see, okay? Can you compare somebody who has a degree, whether he got a job or not? Somebody who got a master, whether he has a job or not? He has a PhD, whether he got a job or not? Compare with somebody who's roaming the street today with no future whatsoever. But having a bachelor's degree, having a master, having a PhD is not enough today in this country, because you also have to create opportunity for them to be engaged. And that the best way to go about it is that by time today, you streamline the system, you bring back security. I can assure you that there is so many opportunities for jobs. Remember, today, who is that foreign investor who will take money and resources, or local investor who will take money and resources to invest in any major sector of the economy today in this country? There are too many. Because somebody told me that capital is a coward. I don't know what that meant, but what it means is that no investor, no businessman will go and invest in an area where there is crisis. Now, if a situation now where farmers cannot go to farm, cattle rearer cannot go to cattle rearing, fishermen cannot go to do fisheries, traders cannot go to market, everything, nobody is going to do his own irregular, even the jobs that are there available for us. How much more of getting to invest for educated people? So what it means that you have to stabilize the security environment. You have to stabilize and bring better conditions in the country so that you can attract local and international people to invest in every sector of the economy in this country. The other one is what people are now emphasizing is also what they call skill acquisition. Skill acquisition means that beyond the degree you have, or master's or whatever, you must also learn to stand on your feet. It's also possible only when the environment is right and is ready. So I think all options will be explored. Everything will be done to bring back life to the system.
All right, Prof, it's 18 days to the presidential election.
Thank you for reminding me.
And there's the problem of fuel scarcity and then scarcity of cash. Some persons have said that it could affect the election. What's the position of your party on that?
You see, that was the question I wanted to answer when my brother said I was veering off. And I'm happy you are raising it again. You see, elections, transitional elections like this, whenever they come with their own unique characteristics. Every transition from one government to another, they come up with their own special problems. And therefore, but we are lucky today that the only thing we can say we are very proud of is that today we are going to about the 7th cycle of general elections or thereabout. So at least we have done the first, second, third, and fourth, so we have seen the challenges. And but we also feel that if there's a person who benefited from an election that was deemed to be free and fair, is the current president of this country. Because about three things. One is that even where there are difficult circumstances, difficult security challenges around the country, elections at least were said to have been done as done, and then results were announced. Secondly, even before results were finally announced, the sitting president called him and said, "Sir, I have accepted, even though the results have not been announced, the verdict of the people," and congratulated him. And thirdly, the PDP and the President Jonathan did not go to court. So it's a very seamless transition. Very seamless. Even though it was very hot, even though it was very tense, people were angry, but it at least because of the magnanimity of President Jonathan, I think things sorted out themselves. So the same thing this government owes Nigerians, that they will avoid everything that will bring tension in them. And that's why we are talking about. Already we have this, in the recent past we have had, we have been following the crisis in the Northwest, which has been just expanded. Only recently, over 70 people were killed in the Northwest. I think Katsina, I'm sure. Look at what happened in Nasarawa. Over 40 people were killed. Every day, number is increasing. Now, what we are saying here is that if already you have subsisting crisis, so when you have the issue of fuel crisis and then currency change, it adds up to the problem. And then people will now take advantage of this. Well, we as a party, we've been calling our supporters and other Nigerians as a whole, please let people remain calm. We don't want any agitation on this. No, we don't want people to go to take to the street and begin to cause trouble, which will now affect us as a whole. No matter what happened, it has happened now. Whether good intention or whatever, that we are now in a state of flux. Therefore, we have to manage this situation. Therefore, but we want to call on the federal government to stand up now. One, to reduce this escalation of crisis. In the South is now. We have what? Sit at home on Mondays. Sometimes they even go on Tuesdays. Sometimes even on any other day they can choose any day. Even on election day they can decide to say they sit at home. So these are the things that government will watch. And then the issue of the fuel, everything should be done to in the next few days to be addressed quickly so that people can start. Even I need fuel to move its personnel and election materials. And then even the security agents that are going to supervise this election, they need to move around.
Do you also support those who call for the extension of the deadline for the expiration of the narrative?
We have been very consistent. We have been very consistent that yes, anything that can be done to ease this situation should be done. Because we understand that by the Central Bank Act itself, you can have up to 6 months to do this, not 3 months. And then you see the thing about this currency is very unique and very untidy. Only some particular currencies were decided to be changed: 200, 500, 1,000. But what about the 50? What about the 20? What about the 100? Where are they? Are they going to be changed? If they are not going to be changed, why are they not available? At the smaller level for people who want to go into taxi or kekena or run small businesses, even those ones that are not being changed are not available. So what you are saying is that we have never seen a situation where somebody will be sitting down today in the central bank and say today, give them 20,000. Tomorrow, no, give them 10,000. Tomorrow, don't give them. A check now, you cannot get cash on the counter. You cannot get this. It's only under a military rule it can happen, not under civilian government. Even under military, I'm telling you, military rulers, well, some of them will not do this kind of things. So it is a bit messy. And I think that is why we say that first, we are calling for government to do everything possible to have the empathy, to extend it. They are going to lose nothing. If they are talking about people not to amass this money, put them behind their people, or some people already have removed them. They have already taken, we have heard stories of some people already carrying this, hiding them somewhere. Even recently we heard that the security agents have been catching people with money being hidden here and there. So the more you make it scarce, the more you increase the chances of people to hoard it.
Okay, specifically there are those who believe that this policy will check the issue of vote buying, and some people in the opposition have also supported the government in this area.
Absolutely, yes. But you see, the issue is that they say that in trying to do some small gyara for this your eyelash here, don't remove your eye. Because from what, I don't want to talk on this, but what we are hearing is that some people are already gone far. They are not sleeping because some of them have advanced information that this thing could happen.
Gone fine what?
Manipulating the system, there are people who are there, sophisticated in manipulating the system. You are journalists, you can tell me more about this. Therefore, those people who are crying now that they are going to be hurt by this system have already been able to take care of themselves. I don't want to talk more than that. Okay. Therefore, what is the person who is losing out is the ordinary citizen.
All right.
Yeah?
All right, thank you so much. National Chairman of the NNPP, Professor Rufai Alkali, thank you for joining us on Daybreak this morning and sharing perspectives on some of these issues.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, we appreciate
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, that's where we bring the show to an end for today. In case you've missed, you can always catch up across all our social media platforms and also on our YouTube live stream. My name is Ayuba Ilya. Thanks for joining. Join us tomorrow.
Thank you for welcoming us into your homes this morning. Join us same time, same station tomorrow. My name is Stella Iyaji. And for now, have a very pleasant day.